Thanks for listening to English Go Podcast. If you'd like to listen without adverts, read episode transcripts, or listen to extra bonus episodes, please check the description for more details. I've just been sitting outside on my balcony, not sitting directly on the balcony. Before my parents came to Japan, I did a few things, a few jobs around the house, and completed a few to-do tasks before they came. It was like a good excuse. I think I mentioned this in a previous episode, but it was like a good excuse to get jobs finished and get things done that I hadn't got round to doing yet. And one of the things I did was bought like a table and chair set for the balcony for outside. It's a nice folding wooden set, not too expensive, but anyway, that's besides the point. I was sitting outside on my balcony and listening to podcasts, Japanese of course. I've started studying again, and I was drinking a cup of tea, naturally. What else does a British person do? And I was just looking at the mountains, because where I am, it's like tucked. If I say this, it's going to sound like I'm in the middle of the countryside or something. It's sort of like tucked in between this two mountain ranges. A mountain range being like a long line of mountains, and that makes it sound like really beautiful and very pretty. Probably it's not that beautiful or pretty, but it's nice enough. So on the side that my balcony is on, the side of my flat that my balcony is on, I can see this huge range of mountains. I don't know what they're called. They must have a name. But they stretch for miles and miles and miles. They really do go on. And from the other side, if I go across the other side of my flat and look out of the window, I can see mountains, but they're further away, much, much further away. And I've always wanted to live in a place where you can see mountains, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because there aren't any where I've lived in England. I don't think the closest I've got to being able to live somewhere and see mountains was when I was living in Manchester, and I could look out of my kitchen window and I could see somewhere called the Peak District. Maybe you've heard of the Lake District. I hope you have. It's a very, very beautiful place in England. I've talked about it a few times, I think, in previous podcasts. The Peak District is sort of like a smaller version. Is it smaller? I'm not sure. I think so. A smaller version of the Lake District without the lakes. But it's got some really nice hills. I don't know if I'd call them mountains. I'm always confused about this. Like, when does a hill become a mountain? I never know. There's probably like some height, like over 200 meters, and it's a mountain or something. Or maybe it's to do with the shape. When I think of a mountain, I think of something quite pointy, quite sharp. But hills, they're soft and rounded, usually. Anyway, from my kitchen, I could see the Peak District, this big hill in the Peak District. And that's the closest I've been to living in a place where you can see something like a mountain. But here, I'm really spoilt for choice. Spoilt for choice is a good phrase. It sort of, it just means you have tons of choices. So in this case, there are loads of mountains to look at. I'm spoilt for choice. And I always thought that maybe someday I'll live somewhere where I can see like one or two mountains. But I don't even know how many mountains there are. I don't think I can count them all. There are that many of them. There's just a massive, long line of mountains that goes on for miles on both sides. No, more than both sides. It's all around me. There's only one side that doesn't have any mountains on, and that's the side that's sort of pointing towards Tokyo and also towards the ocean. So, you're not going to get any mountains there towards the ocean. I've completely forgotten why I'm telling you this. Why am I talking about this? I guess just wanted to explain that it was nice. And I've always wanted to see mountains. But I don't know where this is going. You know, like normally when you start talking about something, it's got a point, hasn't it? It's got a reason. It's got like a conclusion, like something at the end. This doesn't have one, I'm very sorry to say, other than the fact that it was nice and I was relaxed, sitting outside, drinking tea, looking at the mountains, listening to podcasts, and just thinking, I enjoy living here, I guess. That's what I was thinking, which is nice, because I don't always think that, if I'm perfectly honest. I've probably said this before, but living in a different country is not always easy. You know, it presents many challenges. And so you can't always think, I like living here. But having said that, when I was living in England, I didn't always think I liked living here. In fact, when I was living in England, sometimes I would think, I'd rather live in a different country. But now that I'm living in a different country, I think I want to live in England more than I did before. Like, living in a different country lets you see all of the good things about your own country. And if I refer back to the previous episode where I was talking about how fun it was to go around Japan as a tourist again, you know, to go to all the sort of sightseeing places. I also did something similar in England on a few occasions, and lots of people don't do this. I think lots of, you know, not just English people or Japanese people or whoever, but I think lots of people don't really go around their own country as a tourist. And I really recommend you do, because before I had done this, before I'd gone around England like a tourist, you know, before I'd gone to all these like really popular touristy type locations, I used to think, why do people come to England for a holiday? You know, what do they want to come and see? London's fine and everything, but it's a city, and lots of places have big cities like London, so I couldn't really understand it. And I used to think, yeah, we've got some really nice scenery, like in the Lake District or Peak District or wherever, but there's lots of countries with nice scenery like that, so why do people want to come to England? But when I went around England like a tourist, when I went to all the like tourist locations, I remember thinking, this is great. I'm really enjoying this. And suddenly it became very obvious why people were coming to coming to England as tourists. It completely changed my view of my own country. Really weird. I went from feeling like England's got many good things about it, but it's also got negative things about it. You know, like a bit like a 50-50 feeling, like a bit like lukewarm. That's a good phrase, isn't it? Lukewarm. Lukewarm. It means sort of like not hot, not cold. So, you know, a bit on the fence. There's loads of phrases coming out today. On the fence. Like you're sitting on the fence and you can't decide what side you want to be on. So, you know, 50-50. Not explaining this well. I think you can understand though, hopefully. But after going around the UK, well, actually not just the UK, it was England. I went to Scotland as well, and Wales, but not Northern Ireland yet. But after doing some like tourism in my own country, it gave me a much more positive image of England. Like I fell in love with it more than before. And I think the time that I really appreciated England the most was just before I was due to come to Japan. So the last few months when I was living in England, that was the time that I really noticed how much I did actually like England. Because, you know, I was due to like leave England in the next few months, and you start thinking like, ooh, they don't have this in Japan. Ooh, I won't be able to do this in Japan. And you start to think about all the things that you will miss, and all the things that you enjoyed about, your life, wherever it is, in this case, England. So yeah, moving to Japan has given me like a much more positive image of England, actually. And having the chance to meet my parents again recently, and see them face to face. I mean, we talk almost every week, like with a video chat thing. We use FaceTime. But actual face to face, in person communication is just completely different, isn't it, really? So being able to sort of like pretend I was back in England in a sense, I was, like I said before, I was using English all the time pretty much, and it was just full, native English. I could say whatever I wanted, however I wanted to say it. So yeah, what am I trying to say? I guess I'm trying to say that maybe it's made me miss England a bit more. Miss, living here, miss England a bit more, and miss my own language a bit more. And, well, obviously you miss your family and friends a bit more because you can't see them very often. But at the same time, as I sat there on the balcony on my new chair next to my new fancy-looking wooden table, folding table thing, drinking a cup of tea and looking at the mountains, I felt a sense of calm, a sense of content, being content, being happy with what I currently have, with where I currently am. And I guess that's the point of this podcast. I've got to the end, finally. I've made a point. I didn't know where this was going. It was another one of those episodes where I had no plan. I just wanted to talk to you, just like a chat with a friend, which is what I often do on this podcast. But I hope it's been another good episode for listening practice for you, and look forward to speaking to you again soon. Until next time, bye-bye.
When you save on auto insurance for driving safe with USAA Safe Pilot, you'll feel like a big deal, even in a traffic jam. Save up to 30% with USAA Safe Pilot. Restrictions apply.